Last year was a short-term disability program and self-insuring that. We estimated at that time that we would save $40,000 during the course of the 07-08 time frame. In fact, we were in error. We saved $70,000 instead of the $40,000. With the addition of Selena Ramirez, our benefit specialist, we believe going forward into the 08-09 budget period that we can now self-administer that program as well, and we believe that that will save an additional $14,000. Our dental renewal came in at originally 8%. We negotiated that down to 6%, and we'll be coming to seek guidance from the council in reference to adding a dental health maintenance organization in addition to our existing dental health care plan. In this particular case, under the health maintenance organization, the dental health maintenance organization, 24% of our employees, spouses, or dependents utilize a DHMO dentist today. And we anticipate that 5 to 10% of our employees on the dental plan will actually make that switch. The reason why this is perhaps truly a win-win for both the city and the employee will save on full family coverage about $450 on an annualized basis out of their paycheck. But at the same time, the portion that the city pays will be less than half. So we will actually be saving money with each of the individuals that switches to that plan. Some of the unique elements on that plan are they actually offer adult orthodontia. So that's one of the key things. There's no deductible. Certainly there's a smaller group of dentists, but again, a good portion of our employees are utilizing the dental health maintenance folks today. The risk management pie as it exists today, $7.3 million, and that happy face looking back at you is $5 million, and that is the health care portion alone. When we insure all of our fleet, all of our buildings, $13 million in excess coverage, our workers' compensation, all of our other benefits make up that smaller portion. But when we take a look at where we are today in terms of the premium that we have compared to surrounding municipalities, the lower red line indicates employee-only premium. And we are the lowest today compared to those other municipalities with one of the most attractive benefit plans. The upper red line indicates full family coverage, and again, we are the lowest today. When we move forward, some of the elements that come into play in the pricing of a plan are three keys. The demographics, how old we are, how that plan is designed in terms of deductibles, co-pays, things of that type, and the utilization. When we take a look at utilization over the course of the last 12 months, and this is for the city of Goodyear, we've paid in $3.2 million in premium, and they've paid out $3.6. That's a little bit of a problem. The carrier would like for us to have run on this red line that you see before you over the course of the last 12 months. Unfortunately, we were substantially over that. A carrier ideally would like to run at about a 75% loss ratio. So for every dollar that we pay them in premium, they only want to pay 75 cents out. We've paid them $1 and they paid out $1.12. So that was a little bit of an issue going into renewal, and we might anticipate a 37% increase, plus what's called inflation or medical trend. A medical trend, what that is it says if we have the exact same claims next year as we had this year, all the same procedures, all the same medicine, how much is that going to cost next year? And the answer is 12% more. So the carrier would look for 37% plus another 12%, or in our case, 49%. The carrier, in fact, came back at 54%. They came down to 29.5%. We went through about 6 hours of negotiations and came down to 24%. We then, because of the size of our premium has grown over time, we approached our broker, Brian Rafferty, and said, would you be willing to cut your commission in half on our health care? And Brian was willing to do that and work with us to get us down to our net renewal of a 22.5% increase. Given the fact that we're running 112%, medical trends at 12%, and in addition to that, our trend is going up in terms of losses, 22.5 was something that we felt extremely successful in achieving. We then went to United Healthcare, and most carriers have at least two pockets. They have one pocket for renewal, and they have another pocket for on the sales side of the house. Don Gorman with United Healthcare is here, and he worked with us during the course of the renewal, and after we'd gotten to that 22.5%, said, what else do you have in the other pocket? And Don was instrumental in bringing to us a little over $100,000 in a benefit, to where if the employees participate in a little finger prick to where they get some very basic blood results and then participate in an online wellness survey, that they would receive $75 for both themselves and their spouse if they're on the plan, so $150. And then there are other elements that they can participate in to have up to an additional $100 for both the employee and the spouse on the plan. So this came to over $100,000 and stayed with the theme of early detection and wellness. After renewal, where are we at on that 22.5%? Well, the lower red line, again, employee only, there's 3 that are more, 4 that are less. And on full family, there are 4 that are more, 3 that are less. But when we take a look at plan design, for instance, Avondale would appear to have the best plan, and certainly from a pricing perspective, they are. But we have to take a look at plan design. An employee in Avondale who actually goes to the doctor and has an outpatient procedure or has an overnight stay at the hospital is going to pay their deductible, but then they are also going to pay 10% of the bill in terms of a deductible, the coinsurance, if you will. So we don't have that coinsurance element, so it's a more attractive plan for our employees. The dollars in the future, we're at $5 million today. 5 years out, we anticipate $12 million in premium. That's exactly where we're going to be. Those numbers are very realistic in terms of what our projections are over the course of the next 5 years. It becomes fairly critical for us then, if the risk management pie today is $7.3 million, what's it going to look like in 2012? $15 million. The happy face that you saw on the earlier slide is gone, and healthcare continues to eat more and more of our budget with each passing year. So, risk management perspective, the idea is to keep the healthy and keep the chronically ill from getting worse to avoid that budgetary time bomb. And each of you has that piece of risk management pie in your hands, or will shortly, to help us to erode and to eat away that piece called healthcare. One of our strategies going forward is certainly through a comprehensive wellness strategy, and what that involves is a number of different things all hitting at the same time. Healthcare is, like so many other lines of coverage, it is a controllable cost. It is something that we can reach out and start to utilize tools to bring those numbers down. Some of those things, the Weight Loss Challenge, the Walk for Life program, free influenza vaccinations, health fair, a free mammogram to our employees, free health care early detection with HealthWays. It's a more comprehensive blood draw. And there's a key word there that keeps coming in and out, and that's free to our employees. Certainly we want to give them incentive to participate in these early diagnostic testing programs. We have found people that were diabetic that didn't know they were diabetic. We have found people with high blood pressure that didn't know they had high blood pressure. We have found people with cancer that didn't know they had cancer, and because of that early detection are still employees in the city today. So that early detection is a critical element for us. So how many employees participate today? 25 to 30%. Well, if we're finding that type of problems in the 25 to 30%, imagine what we could do if we were penetrating 90 to 95% of our employee base. Early detection and then prevention of chronic disease. That's the name of the game. When we take a look at healthcare, a doctor visit, and these are our numbers, the City of Goodyear's numbers, the average visit to the doctor's office results in an $80 payment. Now, some employees say, I don't want to go to the doctor, I'm going to get better, it's okay, it's just a hassle to go. And what ends up is they end up going to the emergency room, And that's $450 to go to the emergency room. That's what we pay. Or worse, they wait to get that initial care and ends up in a hospital overnight stay, which averages over 100 times what a doctor visit is. So now we're over $8,000 for an overnight stay at the hospital. So why do we wait? There's a lot of reasons. Folks make excuses. It's too hard. It's difficult. It takes time. I've got to drive across town. I have to take time off from work. All of those things just boil down to folks just don't want to take the time to be proactive. Well, let's try to think about, imagine if we could take those claims that are hitting the emergency room, those claims that are hitting the hospital, and keep those at that $80 doctor level. And let's find those problems early. Let's keep the healthy healthy, and let's keep the chronically ill from getting worse. One of those elements that we come to seek guidance on is a health center on site. This is already earmarked in the budget. The estimated cost is $80,000. This would be a physician or physician assistant that would be on site 3 days a week for 4 hours a day. It would accommodate 32 visits on a weekly basis. This clinic would also service the majority of our workers' compensation claims. They would also service the CDL exams, hearing exams that we currently pay an outside vendor to provide for us. And most of all, it's that benefit that the employee perceives. Certainly, absenteeism is always an issue when folks just wait too long to get treatment. And I must admit, I am probably just as guilty as the next person in waiting too long. If I had gone when that spot on my forehead first came out, it wouldn't be what it is today. And that is cancer that I'm being treated for. So if I'd have gotten out there and said, hey, this is a unique spot, what's up with that, it would have been much easier to treat than it is today. Certainly it lowers our loss ratio, and again, the key is the early detection. That's what makes it all come together. So the participation's key. We have to get the employees engaged in that early participation, early detection programs. And one of 3 are targeted in that area. One's the mammogram van, free to the employees that are on United Healthcare. One is what Don Gamble and United Healthcare have brought forward to us, and that's the free finger prick, get that basic blood test, and then an online questionnaire where the employees actually get paid through a gift card to participate in that. And the third is the health waves that we've been doing for several years now, where they get a more comprehensive blood draw and questionnaire. So the increased participation would look something like this. All employees pay 10% more of the premium, but they would get a credit equivalent to that 10%, bring it back to where it is today in terms of percentage, if they participated in one of those 3 diagnostic-oriented wellness initiatives. We still anticipate that about 5%, maybe a little bit more, of our employee base would not participate in any of those 3 wellness initiatives. We would give them 6 months in which to participate between now and January 1. We would make a personal phone call to those employees and make personal contact to say, are you sure you don't want to participate in one of these 3 wellness initiatives? So we would make sure that we made every effort to reach out to every employee. The employee today that participates in the wellness initiative is still going to pay more, certainly make no mistake of that, and that is because there is an increase. Employee only is still free, but when we get down to full family coverage, it's about $30 a month, $15 a check, or about $10 in terms of their take-home. When we take a look at an employee who chooses not to participate in one of those 3 wellness diagnostics, well, now they're going to pay more. $40 for employee only, and $141 for full family, more than what they pay today per month. Is it fair that those folks that are being certainly proactive in taking care of their health should pay for those that don't? Risk management, keep the healthy healthy, and keep the chronically ill, obviously, from getting worse to avoid that budgetary time bomb that we know is coming in the future when it comes to health care. So what's the future? Obviously, we have to have a plan. Well, that plan is, in the near future, we're probably still going to see traditional plans as we have today, but we're going to see high deductibles that are coupled with that. And then long-term, I think we're going to see the traditional plan that we have today going away and replaced with a high deductible with a health savings account. I just see that coming in the next 2 to 5 years. Teamwork and education, together we make the difference. We'll be offering numerous education classes to our employees during the course of this fall, so they will have an opportunity to be proactive and participate in the direction that we go in the future with our health care. The risk management pie, with risk management, we're controlling how much of that budget that we eat through these incentives and special, certainly, plans that we bring to the table. And with that, I'll open to any questions that the council may have.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from the public? Okay, move to council. Start with Councilmember Sousa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to compliment you on your presentation, very professional, and the ideas that you put forth certainly can curtail the increased cost of medical care here in the city of Goodyear. I know when I first came on board this council, and you were with me, Mayor, one of the concerns that this council had was the increasing cost of medical care for our employees. But more importantly was that we were concerned about maintaining a level of benefits that would protect our employees and their families. And that we've done down to the last 10 years since we've been on the council together. And what you're proposing is outpatient diagnostic care and certainly medical care on premises, which is going to cut down cost in the future. It's something I, as a broker, a medical broker, down through the years, have proposed to my clients. They couldn't sell that theory to them, and as a result, they suffered because of it in premium increases. You're on the right path here, and we've got to take into consideration the $5 million of premium that we're paying has been incurred by growth in the city as well, because besides experience. I want to compliment you, and I want to compliment the carrier for the method in which you were able to reduce a potential 54% rate increase down to the current level that you're proposing. That, to me, is tactful and understanding on the part of the carrier. Certainly, we've had, I know, many impact cases that have increased our experiences, and consequently, that would reflect on future rate increases. So, the concern I have about the plan itself that you're proposing is patient confidentiality. Can you please tell me how that patient and the employee and his dependents will be protected from that basis?
Mr. Mayor, Council Member Sousa, that is still the privilege between the treating physician and the patient. The only records, if you will, that we will have access to will be the workers' compensation, the commercial, the CDL, those types of exams we will have. The balance of those records will actually go off-site when the doctor goes off-site. When the doctor comes on, or the physician assistant and or nurse will be there as well, they will leave with the files.
And we're assured of that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'd like to compliment you on the presentation also. Our society is getting older, and everyone's faced with this problem. And I think this is very thoughtful and creative, and does put it back, the health care back in the employer's hands, employees' hands. I mean, they can make a decision to either pay more or take advantage of a real good concept, a concept that means, in fact, you might catch something that they have early on and be able to take care of it. So I commend you on this. I think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all those that contributed to it.
Well, you know, being on the other side of spectrum here, of being a small business owner, there's no comparison for me to everything that you've presented. I just am in shock and awe every time I hear of this benefit program that our city has, because I can't even come close. And so on the competitive side, we're right there. I mean, I can't understand why certain people wouldn't want to work for a city with great benefit packages such as this. So thank you. Thank you for that. I'd be happy to challenge any of our city employees to the walking program, if they'd like to keep up with me in my marathons, I'd be happy to entertain them. So that would be great. Thank you, and thanks for the pie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. I thought that was
George just says no.
I thought that was a great job, and really appreciate you working with the brokers and being able to get the percentages down. I thought that was excellent. I come from a large corporation, and we too had started a program very similar to this, and we had a physician's assistant that we could go to 3 days a week. It was wonderful. I think everybody just praised it. Plus, you didn't spend a whole lot of time just waiting around, driving to and from a doctor's offices just for a small visit. If it was something more serious, of course, you got recommended to go take your turn in line, so to speak. But it worked, and that was the important thing. And it also captured all those people you're talking about that right now just say, I don't have time, I don't want to do it, I'll wait another couple of weeks. It encouraged them, and it really works. And so I'd like to say thank you very much for bringing this up. I think it's going to work just great.
Thank you.
Well, Dean, I want to say thank you. You've done a good job all the years that you've been here, that I've seen you in action, and you come to us every year with an outstanding compromise when we have to, and a good program when it has to be put together. I have one little question, and I see workers' compensation on there. Is there anything that covers, I hate to bring this up, but due to sickness that causes death, is there any compensation back to the family on any of these plans? Isn't that broad, right?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Cavalier,
Yeah.
there are a number of plans that are in place that would cover an illness that resulted in death. Now, certainly there's life insurance that's 2 times the
Right.
annual salary, the voluntary life. If it is work-related, then certainly either workers' compensation will cover that, and also both the fire department and police department have a supplementary policy
Right.
in the amount of $50,000 that we carry as well. In the near term, if that person were that ill, the short-term disability policy would actually kick in and would take care of them and would transition up to the point of going onto permanent disability.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor?
No questions. Good presentation. Look forward to supporting your recommendations.
I second that. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken Kennedy. And the subject is feedback and input on the draft update for the CIP.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There we go. Purpose of my presentation tonight is to give you an update to the draft of the capital improvement plan. This update draft was based on your recommendations from the March 31st Council advance, as well as recommendations from the CIP committee. You've each been given a copy of the plan. It's 1 page per fiscal year. Each page shows the utility and non-utility projects on it. The funding sources are across the top of the page. Down the sides of the page are the projects. So as we call it, it's kind of sources and uses, uses being the projects and the sources being the funding sources. I color-coded them to kind of help you through it. Where the white projects are funded projects, the red projects are projects that are deferred, and the yellow projects are partially funded.
Sorry, red was what? I'm sorry.
Red was projects that are deferred or not
Deferred.
funded. Mhm. And there's a legend at the very top there also. One of the things I wanted to point out was in the status column, if you look at where it says status, if you kind of just go down that, most of the majority of our available funding went to contractual obligations. These were either contracts already entered into or multi-year contracts that we've entered into. So a big portion of our funding just went to our contractual obligations. The major changes to the approved plan beginning in fiscal years 07-08, that's the plan that you approved last July, were several major projects that were pushed to the out years, and that's police, fire, admin, public works, corporate yard, deferred from 09, or 08, 09 to 910, Stray Mountain Park Ranch Phase 2. These were mostly due to new fiscal projections. Major changes to the approved plan since the council advance are we moved City Hall and the library back into the plan. They were scheduled for 2013. Design now scheduled to be completed in 9/10, and construction would be completed by July of 2011. Now, there is some clarification needed there. We have kind of two paths on City Hall and library. Is the 3P path that we're pursuing, and also as it appears in the CIP. And the funding can be actually used for either endeavor.
State that again, Ken?
We have kind of two paths that we're following for the City Hall and library. We're pursuing the 3P, the private partnership, and then also just the way it appears in the CIP with bond funding.
And the delta between what appears in the CIP and what the potential
Well, bond funding that appears in the CIP can be used for either the 3P or the way it appears here.
Okay, so between the P3, the delta between the P3 and us building City Hall is a yet unknown.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So that's what we're negotiating
Yes.
currently.
When the five-year plan was presented during the council advance, the wastewater expansion was deferred to the out years and funding wasn't identified. And now utilizing the revenue bonds, as we discussed, it's moved into the plan. And also concerning the revenue bonds, one thing I'd like to mention is that I only programmed that $8 million, not the full 55. The 47 is not programmed into the plan yet, and I'll do that for the final draft. We were looking at some voter authorizations, some other things, and it'll appear just like it did in Sean's presentation. It's just not in there right now. And I wanted to mention that, so if you noticed that. So there's an additional $47 million that'll be put into the plan.
Will that change these reds in the utility?
Yes. Yes.
Significantly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another $47 million worth, yeah.
So, let's stop there for a minute.
Because I got a lot of questions about the utility stuff, so.
I was concerned about water. We got the adamant interconnect, we got the brine management, other things that are probably as important. Are you saying those can be accomplished with this 47 million?
Yes.
Can, right? Not cannot. Can, is what you said.
Can be accomplished, yes.
Okay.
Can, yes.
Okay, sorry, I want to make sure I
Yes.
heard you
The
correctly.
wastewater expansion, Adaman, what else was on? Surface water piping for Adaman also would all be accomplished with that additional $47 million.
So I guess, why is it red?
Just haven't had time to put it in yet.
I didn't get it in there, to be honest. I mean, we were looking at some voter authorizations, some other things, and what's actually funded is next year, and then the other stuff I just didn't get programmed, and I will before the final. So,
Well, that's good news, though.
yes.
Yeah, that's great news.
Changes a lot of my questions.
What's next is feedback received from if we want to make any changes, if we need to make any changes. Final plan would be brought back to council in June for adoption with the regular budget. Before I open it up to questions, I just wanted to follow up an item brought up in a council meeting, I think either last week or the week before, on monument signs. And we in our original budget, we had $220,000 or $30,000 programmed. We only spent about 110 of that, so we do have $100,000 available this coming fiscal year for additional monument signs. So that, even though it shows not funded in our plan, it is funded through a carryover process.
And Ken, I guess the next thing might be that when would we get something that's updated, because it is confusing looking at them like this.
You know, I can update it fairly quickly and get you a copy in the next week or two.
Yep, why don't we do that?
Yeah, and I apologize that I didn't get that in there, and that was really my fault.
Because some of them that were red, I know had already been started, already like working on. We're going to move forward on them. So like the Adamant project.
Yeah, and somebody else asked me that earlier today.
Okay.
And the library part, Ken, can you show that corrected amount?
What was
10 million or whatever it was?
It's a $10 million project, and as it appeared in here, that it looked like it was, gosh, I can't remember, Joanne, what was it? It was
Like 4.5 is what it's
4.5.
showing in here. It's
2 years. But basically, it's a $10 million project. If it was in the plan, design will start this next fiscal year. The completion will be in July 2011. And there's a couple things I need to clean up on this before I get back to you.
Yeah.
So, a couple other things that Joanne has pointed out to me, too, that I'll,
we had a good conversation.
yes. Joanne has a good set
And
of
also
eyes.
some of the carryovers that you were also going to show, which
Yeah,
would have
now,
included
this is just new monies. It's not carryover money. So we do have additional money that wasn't spent this year that will carry over into the next fiscal year.
But we need all
Which
of
is-
that.
Yes.
Yes, we need all that. There's quite a bit of money coming over. Probably approximately, what do we have, Terry, 65, 75 million?
This budget doesn't reflect that.
Well, just in the 5-year plans, about 65 or 70, but then we have the ID, and then we also have the stadium. That carryover money wouldn't be included in that. It's not in this plan.
Okay, any comments from the public, questions? Okay, Vice Mayor, you want to?
So that, on the P3 stuff, when the negotiations finish up on that, we may or may not fill in some of these reds. Is that, or we may have
Right.
more available funds to shift from that project, or yes or
You know,
no?
I mean, potentially yes, but not knowing what the 3P is going to look like. There's $45 million available in this plan for library and city hall bonding, and also some impact fees, so probably a little bit more than that. Actually, I think it was about $54 million. If there's some savings realized through the 3P, it would certainly be available for other projects.
I can't imagine
The
there's not
likelihood,
going to be something.
yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's the reason we're doing. We wouldn't possibly do this partnership if we didn't know we would be seeing some type of benefit from it, as well as a benefit for them. But, so I just can't imagine it's not going to be somewhat significant, so.
I hope so.
And then I did pick up, I guess it was only in one year. So in 0809, we defer the art program, we bring it back in 10,
Yes,
and we defer it again a year, and we
Yes.
bring it back in 11 and 12.
yeah. And one of the things I say about those types of programs, they're great programs, but they're really competing for our general fund money, which is our only discretionary money, and it makes it very difficult. Some of the impact fees and some of that require a cost share from the city. So it's maybe 71% impact fees, but we have to take 29% of other type of funding, which is general fund. So that's our discretionary money is quite valuable. And even though those carry a high priority, they didn't make the list.
I say it again, I said it last week, but I feel like we have to have a dialogue about whether or not we're going to get, and it doesn't have to happen tonight necessarily, but whether or not we're going to get serious about that program. I mean, we talked about up to 1%, but if we're talking $1 million over 4 years and hundreds of millions of dollars in CIP projects, we're not even getting close. We're still at that 1/10 mark, and really at the inception of that program, it was to differentiate us from our neighbors and differentiate us from other parts of the valley and take some unique opportunities. So
It's a great program.
I respect the fact that they're competing, but when I sat up here and made the decision, to me it was somewhat of a commitment about ensuring that took place. So it's small money, but at some point we need to evaluate that.
Directed the staff to make sure that is totally implemented per council approval. So it will be 1% from now on.
I mean, I know that's going to take some sacrifices in other places, but there's ways to integrate that into other projects and monuments at police and fire headquarters and monuments around City Hall and moving an old train depot potentially could qualify. I mean, those kind of things. So, anyway, I'm sure I have some other comments, but those are the first ones.
Okay. Okay, Ken.
And I'll get
And
you
you'll be getting us an updated list
in
about
the
a
next
week.
couple of weeks, or 1 week's fine. Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'll get right on it.
With the carryovers, because some of those carryovers, like my question regarding the radio dispatch or whatever it is for the police department,
Yeah, you're right on
showed
that.
2.6 million. And in our CIP here, it only showed $1 million, and that was
Yes.
because it was in the carryovers, and we couldn't see that. So
Right.
without
It's
that
funded.
knowledge,
Yeah, it's funded this year, and so that money will be combined.
but, yeah,
Is
so
there a
maybe that-
column for carryovers? For people who have a hard
You know,
time.
and that's something maybe we need to do next year, is integrate the carryovers over. One of the things with carryovers, you know, you kind of pick a point in time, because if we picked it a couple months ago when we put this together, we're going to spend a whole bunch of money between now and July 1, but I think it would probably still be really good information for you, and maybe we need to do that next year, get all the carryovers.
That's a good idea.
And we'll also give you, once carryovers are done in July, say in August or something, around that time, we'll give you an updated list, including the carryovers. That's a good point.
Ken, another question on the contingency fund. How much of that, where will we stand next year on the contingency fund?
That's a finance question, and I'm
Is that coming up later?
I mean, that's
coming up
not,
later.
okay,
We've got a budget on it.
okay, that's in budget, but I mean, it won't, I was wondering how it would impact the CIP for next year. It won't.
I'm not sure how it doesn't, or if it does.
It's totally something
I'm sorry,
else.
I'm not sure if it does or how it
Okay,
does.
so there's really no connection.
Different monies.
It's different
Well,
money.
that's again a finance question, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor and Councilman Cavalier, the CIP funding that Ken is working with stays with the intent that we talked about of leaving that
Okay.
$20 million intact, and so everything you're seeing leaves that intact.
Okay, because I'm wondering if any of these CIP projects will impact or take from our contingency fund.
No, none of them are programmed to take from.
And I also want to repeat what Vice Mayor said about the art projects, because when a new business or when new people come to Goodyear, I hear those things, and if we look good, they will want to come here. And we do stand out. In fact, I was in an office last week where some people who don't live in Goodyear, that live out west, and they look at these cities and they say, well, there's one thing about Goodyear. They always look better than any other city. And you know, that must be because you guys are doing something right and you get the good businesses, but not only do you get good businesses, you look like you're successful. And everything seems to be planned. It isn't just, and I think the art objects do reflect that. I just came from a city this weekend where it is amazing what the art objects do to attract people to come to their city center. And it is it's amazing to me. And one of the brightest parts of the city. And all of that is because of what they have put into the art projects and what they have put into their architecture and how they've done it so that it is a bright architecture that is really avant-garde. It's really on top of it. And I think that's what we want to strive for. And as the Vice Mayor said, we wanted this in there. I hate to see any of that cut. So
It sounds
do
like we
what you
have
can
a
on
new
that.
direction, and we're gonna get it in there, so.
Well, we do need to give the Art Commission time to do the
Pardon?
research. Art Commission needs the time and the research,
I understand.
and so I agree. And as we build these projects, we certainly want the art to be in place at the time the project's finished, at least. It's going to happen.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
One more question.
one more quick.
Give me a bit of, I mean, I notice IT keeps getting pushed. You know I'm a big fan of Lotus Notes in our current program. So help me
only
understand
one.
when I'm going to get away from that.
My favorite thing.
Does it come up within the next 5 years?
Yeah, now, is anybody
line item.
What's that?
Line item.
I know, well, I just noticed it keeps getting deferred, and we're
Well,
going to
the
go into a
13
new city
million is
hall.
actually the new phone system. Is that what you're referring to? Is it's kind of
Oh,
in
the
out-
IT upgrades gets deferred, and I don't
Yeah, I did.
think showed up again.
No, it's not funded, yeah.
And
There is
then-
I think about $1 million this year funded, and
And then the infrastructure, assuming we're moving into a new city hall, that's what that system would be. Does that ever come about, or you just?
the
Moving all the
infrastructure,
old
there's a
into-
small number plugged into our construction budget of about 2%, which is a pretty normal IT a number. But I'm understanding that, that we need more than just the infrastructure at City Hall. We need a whole new phone system, backbone, and so on. And that's what that 13 million is that you see in 1213. But Kathy submitted as a project that we put in.
You want to come forward?
Yeah,
I have a breakdown of that $13 million that might help explain some of that. And while Ken had suggested that typically there's a much smaller number associated with an IT installation in a new facility, I think what he's referring to is that you physically pick up and move what's existing today into that new location. Unfortunately, we can't do that. The equipment that we have in place will not last into the future. Okay, so we're going to rebuild it from scratch. Basically, what we're doing now with some of the $1.2 million that we have now is trying to extend the life of the existing equipment so that it will take us into the future, into the new facility. So in terms of what your question was, as far as you're a big fan of Lotus, we are working on that, and hopefully we're looking for the end of this calendar year. No commitments, though. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but we're working
So
on it.
if we're moving into a new city hall and you talk about needing a new backbone and needing new fiber and everything else, we're going to take the old system, upgrade it, and move it into the...
We will be able to take some of the components, but not all of them.
Some of them on, yeah.
Some. And I do have a breakdown of what some of those items are.
Those are the kind of things that I could see sneaking up on us as we're getting ready to open the door of City Hall. Is that something that's taken into consideration in our current discussions with our P3 opportunity, and is that part of that budget overall budget number, or are we just talking?
I did just submit that spreadsheet to Ken and then in consideration for, and that's how it ended up on this spreadsheet now. So whether it be in the P3, again, a lot of what we're asking for doesn't seem reasonable to assume that the vendors that are, or the solutions will include all of those IT services. It's very creative financing, I understand that, but this is a little bit different in that we are starting almost from scratch. So it's a little bit of a different paradigm now. Okay.
One last question. So are we, I'm sorry.
Ken?
Yeah. Yeah. So are we going to see this one more time before we vote on it?
Yes, you're going to see it in a week,
Okay.
another
That's
draft.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, you up?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here tonight to talk about a IGA that we want to bring forward to council for signature in early June. And I have the pleasure tonight of not only representing the police department, but also the fire department and public works, as this is a joint project. Our goal is to bring us a radio system that does what we need it to do, to put a fine point on. Communications has traditionally been one of the hurdles and challenges in everything from major events like 9/11 all the way down to everyday events of traffic accidents, minor flooding, you name it. Communications across the country has always been a hurdle. What we want to do is get out in front of that a little bit and solve a situation that has existed here in the Valley for about 20 years, in that nobody can talk to anybody else. Police can't talk to fire, fire can't talk to public works, we can't talk to Avondale. So we've been working to solve that, and that's our goal, to bring us a solution that addresses those issues and will last for at least 15 years. Give you a little bit of where we're at right now, without killing you in technical speak. Basically, our police radio system is an individual system. We cannot talk to anybody on it. We have limited ability to talk to our officers in the field in Rainbow Valley, and we have no ability to talk to our officers in the Sonoran Valley expansion area. We also are at a position where if we put any more money into the system, we're putting a Band-Aid on a system we can't expand. The FCC will not even grant us any additional frequency licenses unless we're building an interoperable radio system. Fire has been on the Phoenix Fire radio system for, and I have 15 years, Chief, but I think it's a little bit longer, since 1999, and that system itself is over 15 years old. They have reached a point where they are coming on board with Phoenix's massive radio system. They've spent over $120 million and counting on this system, and they are now bringing the fire departments on board or any fire department that's a member of the Phoenix Fire Consortium. So that system is forming the core of what is now being called the Regional Wireless Cooperative. And the RWC is going to be a user-run group similar to MAG that is specific to the radio system. Phoenix Fire has dedicated themselves. They're going to move forward with this, and that means all other participating agencies need to move forward with them. Municipal, right now, Public Works, Parks, all the other various non-public safety or traditional public safety agencies have no radio system communications ability at all. They're working solely off of cell phones. Some years ago, they gave up their licenses to the police department along with fire so that we could extend the life of our current system. We've reached the point now, especially with the ballpark coming, where they're going to need to be on a radio system just for regular park operations. Short history, the big milestone I want to pull out is in 2004, many things happened, including the funding of the police CIP project to solve this, and also our participation in what is now known as the macro report, and that was a state-funded report through the Governor's Commission, Public Safety Communications Commission, to address just this issue on a statewide basis. And the overall recommendation of that was that we start with the Phoenix metropolitan system and then try to grow it out from there. Our options, based upon the macro study and the sub-study specific to the West Valley, were either to repair or upgrading our existing system that has truly proven to be a non-starter due to multiple issues. Basically, you can paint a rusted car, but it's still going to be a rusted car. We build a brand new system inherent to Goodyear. We completely own and operate it. They're very expensive, $15 to $25 million. That is conservative considering the growth of our city. Glendale, about 10 years ago, built their own independent system at a cost of right around $20 million right now. And Glendale is leading the charge to move to the RWC. They're actually dismantling their system and reassembling it as part of the RWC due to challenges, technical challenges inherent with trying to integrate two disparate systems. Option 3, obviously, is the one I'm championing, and that is to move towards the Project 25 RWC. It is going to cost us between $8 and $10 million. And we estimate an additional $650,000 in annual operating costs. The nice part is we have access to a lot of services that we can outsource through other cities. Obviously, again, our recommendation. The key to this recommendation is that in order for us to participate, a very aggressive timeline has been set forth. Basically, all the participating agencies in the Valley, and there's 18 right now who are sure, another 4 who are on the fence, came together and said, if we're going to do this, we have to do it right away. Otherwise, agencies are going to start looking to build their own systems. They're in sort of the same boat we are. They can't wait any longer. So there's an IGA that is with the city attorney now for review, and that would need to be executed in June as the RWC in this project moves forward effective July 1st. So we have a very short time frame to move forward with that. The funding and completing of all tasks, again, very aggressive timeline on this. We're looking at a July 2010 to fund everything. Completion will happen in fiscal year 11-12. Actually, fire will make the jump in 2011. Benefits, there are so many benefits to partnering. When we're talking the money's involved, it's really the only way to go. State and federal funding sources will not grant money, will not assist in any way, shape, or form unless you're building a joint interoperable system. If you're doing your standalone thing, you're not going to get any money, which is one of the driving factors for Phoenix playing all of a sudden, is all their federal funding and grants dried up unless they shared a little bit. So it gives us the interoperable component we're looking for. We'll be able to talk to our fire, our municipal partners. Also, we can do that across the valley. So regardless of the incident, police, fire, public works, we can all talk and communicate small or large incidents. The other key to this is a radio system is something a city has to have. We have to have the ability to communicate to our public safety responders, our public works, parks. This is the most cost-effective way to get into a radio system. No different than roads and everything else. If it's shared use, share the cost of it. and this is giving us access to what will be a $160 million radio system. It will be a very unique system in the United States. Motorola is cutting costs drastically because it's going to be a marketing tool for them, and it's a huge benefit to the city to be able to have access to it. The IGA, effectively the biggest part of the IGA establishes the Regional Wireless Cooperative, and this will be a managing board that by signing it we will be a voting member of, and basically it's a one city, one vote board. So Phoenix and Goodyear have the same level of approval authority and involvement on this system. There are the options out there for a weighted vote, and as we're all aware, what those can bring. However, in order to bring a weighted vote, 80% of the majority body has to agree to go to a weighted vote. So there's some checks and balances there. Phoenix mandated because they're into this for $120 million. I can understand that. Again, the issue is we have to have this IGA executed fairly rapidly. If we don't execute the IGA at this point, we are, based upon the technical nature of the project and how it has to go through the build process, if we don't participate now, we will not be allowed the opportunity to join until after July 2011. And that brings some consequences with it if we don't. The RWC, again, will have a board of directors. The board of directors will have working for them several managing committees for technical, administrative, and financial purposes. To start with, Phoenix is offering up much of their staff, being that they already have this in place to manage their radio system. However, once the board of directors is set, they can nominate and put into place other partners as necessary. The board can also, through majority vote, through 80% or greater vote, change the mandates of the RWC if we find there's something that we don't like at this point. One of the key points here is this is not Phoenix selling us their system. Phoenix is looking for no remuneration for this. They're not trying to get back any funds they've put into it. That was issues we had 2 or 3 years ago with the plan. That has all gone away, so they're actually playing very nice with us. Once we are a member of this, the termination process takes 24 months, and the reason for that is once the system is up and working, it's a combined system. In order for one agency to pull out of it, basically you start ripping large holes. Imagine if Goodyear pulled out of I-10 and we took that section of freeway with us. So it takes 24 months for them to plan to replace those portions. The actual divorce clause in there is that we may not get back our exact infrastructure. We may get back services and equipment in kind so that they don't have to tear it down and replace it. A rough timeline broken down by fiscal. The only item in 0809 that we're actually going to expend monies on is a detailed design process. This would be similar if you're buying a new house, going to the design center. You know you have a house you're going to be able to live in, but what additional features do we want? This is the same thing that would go on with the radio system. It also allows us some opportunities at that time to talk about 3P partnerships, sharing some savings with adjoining cities, also with talking to Motorola about some potential alternate financing operations. Yes, sir.
When you're going through these timelines, give us a financial figure, will you? The way of it.
That is coming up in about 3 slides, or you want me to jump ahead now?
It's okay.
Okay. Fiscal year 10-11 is when we start seeing expenditures on infrastructure, and then 11-12 is when we're building new infrastructure specific to Goodyear for the Estrella Mountain Ranch, Rainbow Valley, and the Sonoran Valley areas. Here's financials as not broken down by time, but broken down by topic. As you can see, we're in for 5.7 and change on infrastructure. That is the radio sites, the towers, the connectivity of those towers back to processing points, the backbone of the system. Subscriber one-time costs, those are the portable radios that the field personnel wear on them, also the radios in the vehicles, and the radio equipment inside my comm center. Jump forward here. The funding sources, we've been working diligently to with today's budget issues to find our funding sources. Through a lot of help from Larry and the CIP office, we've been able to identify all our funding sources for this. And as you can see, we're using a lot of our impact fees for police and fire towards this. And we do have one portion there that is basically a lease purchase out of the GO in fiscal year 10-11. However, those figures do not take into account potential grants from UASI and other federal sources and any savings through private-public partnerships, i.e. partnering with cell phone companies to share tower space and other wireless data folks. So that last line of $2.3 million, we're hoping but cannot guarantee that it will go down. That's our target to reduce right there. The total recurring costs, $650,000 a year. I can tell you from experience in Glendale that if we were running and operating our own system, that number would be double or triple that amount in annual operating costs. And sir, here's the slide you were looking for. This is the fiscal breakdown of what we're expected to pay. Fiscal year 08-09, there's $100,000 identified. That's towards that detailed design process. And we currently, with this year's CIP and next year's $1 million, we have $2.6 million available out of the original police department CIP project, which we're now rolling into this overall, and that leaves us obviously a balance at 2.5. In 09-10, we start expending money towards upgrading existing sites. That's that $1.3 million with the anticipated additional income that we're looking to see from grants and also from Montage as part of their development agreement with us. We have an additional 2.5 coming in, so the 1.3 plus the total amount still leaves us with $3.7 million in available funds. In 10-11, that's the big year. That's when we're building 2 radio sites and equipping all our units. We're spending $7.5. We get another $3.8, including that $2.3 from the lease out of the GO, or the loan out of GO, leaving us a grand total of $24,000 in the project budget at this point. So our recurring annuals, you can see they're including in that recurring annuals is 1 FTE position, a radio tech, to help us manage all this equipment. Why now? While it may seem this is a out of the blue aggressive project, the project itself has been in place since 2004 as a active item on the CIP. Funding actually started in 2004 with some small $80,000 and $200,000 parts that helped us towards the macro study. This opportunity really only started about 12 months ago. Phoenix came and made a huge presentation to all the chiefs and other players in the West Valley and said, we want to play, this is how we propose to do it, working off of the macro study. So for 9 months we've been scrambling to put this together. And as you all know, getting 18 municipalities to agree on one way to do things and throw all their hats in the ring to make this happen has been a great challenge. And that's why everybody's wanting to move forward on this before everybody fragments and heads their own way again. Phoenix Fire, the Fire Consortium is moving in 2010, and if we don't move down this road, something's going to have to be done for our fire department to continue to provide them radio dispatch services, and that could be very costly for the city to do. And then obviously cost effective, partnerships are definitely the way to go with these programs. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, questions or comments? Councilmember Holland.
I mean, that was really good, and of course, we want to do this because it sounds like the right thing to do for our guys out in the fields. The only thing that concerns me is that, anytime you do a detailed design document, you think you've got everything covered, and you don't. And so, do you have some kind of making some kind of an allowance for that and having some additional add-ons or an opportunity to add on and say 12 months or a year, because I didn't see where the money was going to come from. after that?
The plan as designed, we were heavily involved in the Motorola study that came up with these figures. The one thing that could potentially change our dollar amount would be the level of service. And what that is, if you equate it to your cell phone, how many bars you get when you're inside a building as opposed to outside the building, that sort of thing. We have set a standard that is above average for the United States towards what we're going to do. There's also been efforts on the fire department so that they can confidently move forward with a project on ways to work around technology to offset costs. And what I mean by that is for a firefighter to have confident radio service inside a building across the city is a pretty large blanket and would probably double or triple the cost of this project. However, by being creative, they found a way by putting equipment in each piece of apparatus. The firefighter on the scene talks to the apparatus, which then talks back out to the radio system, much more cost effective. But where I'm going with this is we've identified a lot of these. Many of the issues that could arise at the design process can be deferred because most of those are nice to haves and not have to haves. So we're able to defer those down until either additional CIP funds, additional impact fees come available, or other funding sources present.
Okay, and so you'll prioritize those nice-to-have type of things before you come back and need more money, or?
Yes, ma'am. And as a matter of fact, I would be confident in saying right now that we could pull the trigger on this project as is and end up about 12 light years ahead of where we're at right now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Cavalier?
The only question I have is on the, you have the Rainbow Valley connection said will not be fully implemented until later because is that because of lack of equipment or the equipment to do that? What is the problem?
The issue is this project is a valley-wide project, and their timeline is actually very aggressive to get everything done in the 3 years they have laid out here. And what they did is because we were already contracting out services for the sheriff's office to handle law enforcement, and we have sort of a jerry-rig in place for the fire department, we were able to defer that one additional year. The other issue is that we do not anticipate all of the fiber and cabling to be in place into Mobile to support that through Cox and the other private providers until that time. So we tried to get everything together. If we wanted to do it earlier, we would have to pay to put that in at great cost.
But are you talking about Amaranth or are you talking about Rainbow Valley when you said Rainbow Valley earlier?
I'm sorry. Rainbow Valley is at the same time, and we will continue to work at the level of service we have. The key is, even if we did Rainbow Valley earlier, we can't move on to the system until the whole piece is in place. And with both funding and the ability to build it as fast as they are, we just can't get it done soon.
Because that is part of Estrella Mountain Ranch. I mean,
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to move this fast as we are.
So you have an alternative plan until that is implemented?
Yes, sir. I wouldn't call it a plan, but we have something that'll work until then. Yes, sir.
Vice Mayor?
The numbers that you showed us do show up in the CIP?
Yes, sir. The 2.6 do, and the rest of the numbers we've worked with Ken on. I don't know exactly how they show up in the CIP.
No, they do not. The 2.6 does, that's the program now, but it depends on what we want to see, what you guys want to see, and we'll plug that in.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, this is one of those. You said all 18 Valley cities are participating in this? Mesa,
18 of
Gilbert,
22
AJ?
are committed. There are 4 right now that are not, and that is Mesa, Chandler, Apache Junction. They've actually, Mesa and Phoenix were the original partners. Mesa has pulled out at this point for political reasons. They're not being shared with us. We have some guesses, but so they have taken themselves and their 3 partner cities away, and even Buckeye, Peoria, and Scottsdale are moving forward, even though they all have money set aside to build independent radio systems.
So will the interconnect still be there between those two?
Yes. Yeah, through Phoenix.
Through.
Will still be interoperable?
Correct.
They'll still be interoperable. Okay.
They won't be part of the governance model.
I mean, it happens. I mean, the Mesa truck ends up over here. We're still going to end up with being able to communicate. Okay.
It doesn't work today. Your system will.
Yes, sir.
And, you never thought it would happen, but, I sat on a truck and traveled 25 miles out of the town, so.
As a matter of fact, this system also allows us the opportunity to bring in Department of Defense, FBI, all those three-letter agencies, all can participate on this as well.
That's great.
I forgot what else I was going to ask you. If I think of something, appreciate it. It's expensive, but it's a no-brainer.
Councilmember Souza?
Chris, how does channelization work? In other words, you got a channel for the police department, channel for the fire department, channel for public works. And you're getting calls from, I would assume that channels are going to be available to other cities to communicate one-on-one. How's that going to work so that there is no crowding of the channel?
It's actually a very complicated system. The portable radios and vehicle radios we're looking at have the ability to have over 2,000 individual channels on them. And basically what happens is the police department gets these 10 channels, fire gets these 10, public works gets these 10 for each individual city. And there's actually a screen on the radio. They're more computers now than they are electronics. And if we also have what are called interoperability channels. So rather than fire and public works coming to an active police channel to work an incident, we move everybody to one of these interoperable channels. And the dispatchers in all the comm centers manage those. So we're all discrete, but we have the opportunity to join together as needed. So did that explain the...
Yeah, yeah. One city, one vote, right?
Yes, sir.
No weighted vote, he promised.
No weighted vote. No,
Weighted vote is there, but it takes an 80% majority vote
no
in order to
I-10
call.
surprises.
We're planning on no, yes.
All right. Thank you, Lawrence.
Well, it's a great opportunity. It's too bad it's not this year or next year, but I think for safety purposes, for our citizens, what can you say? It's necessary. We got to do it.
If Vice Mayor said no-brainer.
Yeah.
I just have two questions. First of all, the old system, is there anything we can do with it?
We have actually 3 conceptual ideas of what to do with the old system. One of which is to take it dark, i.e. just turn it off, leave it in place. None of the components that are in place now are usable in the new system, and it would be a backup system. Should the large system crash, we can flip the switch. We still have basic functionality. Number 2 is to use it for if, say, Public Works doesn't want to come on for some reason, or some small group doesn't want to come on, or say a special event, we could take it live. Brings with it a lot of problems that we hope we don't go down that road, but it is a possibility. Number 3 is that we actually do away with the system and fold our existing frequencies into the large pool, and there may be some cost savings in doing that. That's one of our cost-saving options that we're looking at. So really option 1 and 3 are what we're looking for.
And secondly, you mentioned radio sites. I'm assuming you would use fire stations, not the police station that's...
Potentially. We always try to find existing city government structures for multiple reasons, but the complexity of these systems, they've done geographic studies and what's called radio signal propagation studies. What's the best place to put a tower site to get the best coverage, best bang for your buck? Right now, I know that the site for the Estrella site, which will be a new site, they are planning on putting up the new wastewater treatment plant in Estrella. The site in Mobile, the cost of that site is supposed to include any land that may have to be purchased. However, again, we're looking at a partnership with Montage, maybe getting a small piece. The existing sites are already at Luke, at other facilities, so we don't have to worry about those. But yes, we try to put any antenna sites on a public safety facility. Yes, ma'am.
I thought of the one that I was going to ask. You brought it up during your presentation, the issue where you've got a firefighter or a police officer inside a large building and they can't communicate with dispatch back outside. You talked about solving that problem with mobile units on the fire apparatus, as well as, I guess I haven't experienced the police side, but it's really freaky when you're sitting in the comm room and you've got a firefighter or 4 inside an active fire and they lose radio communication with that management that's back at headquarters. They've got it with the guy that's right outside the front door, but that same individual, man or woman, is busy managing the active scene, not necessarily listening to everything going on. So this is going to help solve that?
Yes, sir. Greatly so. And we're looking at similar situations or similar solutions that fire has put in, in doing that, police department supervisors' vehicles, mobile command vehicle, the SWAT trucks, those sort of things. And we're also going off of the information we're already getting out of how the Phoenix system works for Phoenix Police Department, and they're finding they have very good reception inside the buildings. Yes, sir. So especially where we don't have a lot of high-rises out here in Goodyear, one of the other things that I would anticipate coming before council in the near future, once we go down this road, is looking on some city ordinance changes to mandate public safety communications ability inside buildings. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was my next question. You beat me to the punch. So design standards for buildings as we get into larger structures. Good. Sir. Okay.
Okay, Chris, we're going to have one member on the board of directors. Is that going to be from fire or police or public works? Are they going to take turns? How are we going to do that?
Of course, I vote for my police chief. However, I don't know if exactly how that's going to work. I do know that it can be rotated.
He just went like that.
Yeah. So
It hasn't been determined yet.
It has not been determined. My guess would it be rotational.
But it's a public safety professional.
It will be a public safety person. Yes, sir.
Good. That's very good.
Okay, and then, as I recall, one of your charts said you have to commit to $8 to $10 million up front with this resolution when it goes to the, when you sign up, when we sign on, we're committing $8 to $10 million.
Yes, sir, we are. However, should we back out before we expend any funds, we are not committed to give them those funds anyway. The way it works is basically what you put into the pot stays in the pot. If you haven't put it in yet, you're not committed to it. So we can sign the IGA now. We're going to do the design study, which is $100,000, but it really gives us a full year before we start expending big dollars.
There's real opportunities for grants here.
We do
The
have
Indian
a-
tribes, for example.
Yep. We are actively pursuing every grant out there. Once we sign this IGA, it gives us a much more marketable position to go after grants.
We might also get with Ramin and see if we can get a letter off to Trent Franks. Okay. Be the first city to do that, because they're going to be lining up.
Without a doubt, sir.
So there's no collective group, all 18 cities going at it together, going after grants?
We can, and that's part of the governance model, that the RWC as an entity on its own can go after grants, get those grants and split those up amongst the cities evenly. So depending on the grant, it's either by a subscriber count ratio or a flat, divided up 18 ways to help with infrastructure costs. And that's one of the big bonuses of this.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
Okay. We'll have our council meeting, how about 6:40? Is that good? Good. By that clock? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.